Hello and welcome to the A&P. I am Alex Johansson and my co-host Patrick McCallum. Patrick,
Hello, everyone. How are you getting on?
we're having logical discussions about the state of the world. Let's get into it, brother. Heyo, Patrick.
How are you getting on, buddy? So we're back for round two.
We are Ark2 for Mr. Marshall, Mr. O'Neill, talking about Israelophobia and the woke culture of Ireland and what that looks like. So I think we just pop right in and let Mr. Marshall cook.
Pop right in and have a look at it, as they said. Let's tear into it.
Here we go now.
Well, all the things that people used to say about the Jewish people, they now say about the Jewish nation. So they used to say the Jewish people loved to kill children. They drained their blood, the blood libel. They drained their blood. They used it to make bread. They drank it. They were, they loved to kill Christian children. Now we see that mimicked and rehabilitated in the idea that Israel, unique among the nations of the world, targets children for death. It loves.
That's one of the blood libels. The genocide blood libel is another one. The occupation is another kind of blood libel. Based on their borders, as they were granted in 1948, they are not in occupation of anything except possibly the Golan Heights. But in 1967, they got that territory along with the Sinai Peninsula, and they pushed their borders out pretty far in an effort to protect themselves, right? So when it reduced back down, because they were willing to parlay and maybe have a two-state solution, but the PLO and other entities of Islamic variety have chosen to fail to recognize Israel as a state at all. So obviously, if you don't recognize the state, you can't recognize the proposal, right? So it's just an automatic shutdown on it. But then when go ahead.
Do you want to kind of explain to people also who would be familiar with the blood libel, what that exactly is? People in the audience?
Right. So, well, Mr. O'Neill's talking about it right now, but the blood libel is functionally when they are saying that Israel is doing a thing first that they are not doing, but that Hamas is in fact doing, right? But the blood libel in this one is like he's talking about, where they're saying that they're using the blood to do like functionally like witchcraft or magic or things that are considered evil from the King James like side of the house. But when Natasha Hausdorff talks about it, she talks about the accusations of genocide and apartheid and these kinds of things, which are overall part of that blood libel. Like, you are all doing bad things. We're assigning you a value that you're not maintaining. The borders that you are in fact occupying are within the sovereignty of the state of Israel. Right. So it is a huge lie wrapped up in another huge lie from a people who have been developed to hate Jews. And in fact, if you kill them, the Islamic State will pay you money. Right. So it's like a bounty. It's like ransom on Jewish people, or not even Jewish people. If you kill Israeli Arabs, then you also get that money or access to those funds, which is insane. So that is a blood libel. Right, but it has been flipped around, and all the things that are not going well and are blood libelous from the side of Hamas, the Houthis, and so on, that are part of the Axis out of Iran. That's actually the bloodlust, and that is the evil part of that. So here we go.
To kill children, you see that prejudice all over the place. Also, the idea that the Jews were a uniquely perfidious people, the uniquely barbarous people, that has been rehabilitated in the hatred for the Jewish nation. Owen Jones in The Guardian described Israel's war in Gaza as uniquely murderous. Unique among the evils of the world is this war.
All right, so the problem with this is the comparison to civilian deaths and combatant deaths is the lowest of any conflict that has ever happened. Right. So in Mosul, the Americans were at, I think it was 5 or 6 to 1, right? And they're below 3, like firmly below 3. But then you got to understand that Hamas is not citing, they're not differentiating kills that are civilian versus combatant deaths. So the IDF, all they can do is say, well, this person had a gun, therefore a combatant. This person had some kind of munitions, arms, were standing in front of or protecting said thing, right? And then when the civilians attempt to leave a space, Hamas will kill them, even though leaflets have been dropped and calls have been made, hey, this building, we're going to bomb this building on this date at this time.
Yeah, but I've always said that once you fire a bomb or a bullet, sometimes it can go off target. It can hit other people. As I said, war is a very nasty, bloody business. As was explained in one of our previous episodes by a military gentleman, that once war goes into an urban setting, a lot of civilian casualties are going to happen, no matter how careful we try to be. It goes without a shadow of a doubt.
I believe that's episode 31 with Nick Freitas. That one might not even be out yet. So, but yeah, his take on it was urban warfare is disgusting and horrible. And for them to keep that combatant to civilian ratio as low as they have is pretty incredible, right? And there's no reason the IDF should be taking any blame at all for Hamas putting their civilians in danger on purpose. Like, that is an on purpose thing. And it's one of those PR things where it just ends up making martyrs. And it's not a uniquely murderous military onslaught. They're going into territory that they own. It is theirs per charter, right?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, when you're looking at the optics of the world looking in at it, everyone knows that Israel has, I would say, pretty much has beaten Hamas nearly into the ground at this stage, as we're looking at it right now.
Yes.
As I've always said, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen with the coming peace deal, because eventually there is going to be some form of a peace deal hammered out. Eventually, that's just the nature of these conflicts.
Right. Well, and then you have to look on the other side. Is Iran going to develop a nuclear weapon? And since they've said death to Israel, death to America, are they willing to do that? And then what happens when and if that happens, right? That's oof.
But I think looking from the Western point of view, we have a tendency not to look at other states around Iran. We've warned Iran about developing nuclear weapons as well.
Right.
In fairness, India has warned them. Pakistan has warned them about developing nuclear weapons as well, not just the United States and our Western allies.
Right. Everybody in the world's like, you don't get to have those toys
as well.
Yeah, you don't get to have those toys. Like, that's not a thing you get to have. You are unstable.
So I think if it comes to a conflict, if Iran does develop anywhere near a nuclear weapon, funny enough, I think the first ones to deal with would be Pakistan, and India would help them as well. But probably the first and the quickest to react. The United States, yes, they'll probably do support if there's any war there as well. Well, I think the quickest to react would be Pakistan.
Well, India and Pakistan are not huge fans of the United States.
They're
I don't know if you're aware of that.
Huge fans of each other, but there's one of the few things they do actually agree on.
Well, no, but they're not fans of the United States. They're really not on board. The United States really played dirty pool when we were out there in India after
the English left. They have never traded in good faith with either of those countries. India's probably more willing to work with the United States in a limited capacity. Pakistan would probably work with them, but at very much.
If the goal set is to make it so Iran is devoid of nuclear weapons, that might be a huge team effort. You know what I'm saying? And
it probably will be a team effort, but it'll probably be more of, yes, you can give us air support, but we'll do the rest. Because
in my years of military
most countries
support,
in the Middle East don't really trust the promises of the United States.
Right. Well, in all of my years of military service, I've never worked with India. I just haven't.
No.
Worked with the IDF, worked with Canada, worked with Mexico, worked with Ireland, worked with the UK, NATO nations, almost all of them, Germany, just all of those countries I've worked with, right? But not once did I ever encounter or deal with India. Indian soldiers.
India is a very proud country in a lot of ways.
Right.
I think we seem to forget in the West that how powerful India actually is in its own right.
Well, they got a billion people, and they're not fudging their numbers.
People. Yeah, they got well over 1 billion people.
Right, and their regions are very, very disparate as well. It's way more disparate than, say, the United States. The United States is homogenous along cultural lines a little bit more than is India. So
yeah, India has a very ancient history from multiculturalism, from all over the Middle East and Asia and everywhere else.
They have amazing megalithic constructions. The Bhagavad Gita is its own thing, its own religious setup. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually. All right, let's get back into this, bud.
In Gaza,
it's not even the most uniquely
No,
the death toll isn't even compared to what's going on in Ukraine. So
Not
it's
at
not
all.
even right now. Is
No.
not the most.
Absolutely.
As far as I don't accept that it is murder.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Exactly. Even by death toll, it's not comparable to any of these other conflicts. And then when you look back to the war.
And the hundreds of thousands and in fact millions of those in those other Islamic states where the government is killing them, or they have Sunnis and Shiites that are fighting within
people seem to forget there's more than one conflict going on in the world at this particular time.
Yeah.
Not just the Ukrainian war or Israel and Gaza.
Right, or the deaths
of all the different conflicts all over that's happening all over the African continent at the moment, different border skirmishes.
The
like
death
tens
of Syrians.
Thousands of people dying.
Have you seen Tal the Traveling Clat talking about the Druze right now in southern Israel? They're trying to make their way to Israel. And the Druze tried to extend to the Israeli government, hey, could you please annex like some part north of your territory so the Druze have a safe place to be? So just in Syria, there's millions of refugees that left out of there. They got out of there as bad as they could when the Assad regime was in there. It was all bad, right? Since the Assad regime has fell and all that anti-aircraft stuff is now out of the way, it's given Israel a way to not cross through Jordan to get around the top over to Iran and do their airstrikes with F-35s.
I've seen the news reports going over there as well. I said there's more than one conflict, as he said, there's more than one conflict going on in the world at the moment. Even vicious conflicts all over the African continent. There's more than one war. But everyone seems to be hyper focused on this specific headline at the moment. But as I said, this time next year, will it still be in the headlines? Probably not. It'll be on to the next crisis around and the globe.
Right. All right, here we go.
I mean, the Congo, for example, which no one talks about, in which millions died, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So that's another ancient libel, ancient form of...
What's that, bud?
A friend of mine who worked in the oil industry was actually there, that war. And where he was based, he had to drive into one of the major cities. So they left their compound in the morning, they would drive through the major city onto where they were working, into the field.
Yep.
They were, as he said, we're under military protection. And go to military at the time. We're there. Trying to keep order in some way. They're kind of half paid by the oil industry as well. But,
were there any French foreign legions out of Sidi Al Adib?
No, well, they weren't official French foreign legions. A lot of them were mercenaries that were hired by the oil company to protect their infrastructure.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Got it.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of people who leave the French Foreign Legion or other armed forces usually join one of these mercenary bands. In fairness, the money is contractors. Contractors is an official term. You can't call them mercenaries anymore. They're contractors.
Right.
They got nice uniforms and paperwork and everything else.
Oh, they've created bureaucracy. They're not land pirates, right?
They're not land pirates anymore. They pay their taxes. They're very kind of legitimate in a lot of ways. But
the
funny thing is, I was talking to a friend of mine. He was there in the middle of that war, and he said every morning, we have a piece of paper inside the truck that we're in, and look out the window, and they would keep a tally on how many bodies they would see to and from work every morning. As he said, after a while, it became a kind of, you needed some kind of black humor to survive, just to hear.
Oh, that's so morbid.
We're looking at.
That is super morbid. Well, at least they weren't issuing letters of marque, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah. But as he said, he always said it kind of, when he came back into Ireland afterward, he kind of retired from the industry, and people ran about life is sacred. He said, maybe they should go to one of these war zones and have a look around. Life is not as sacred as you think it is when you go to these kind of places.
Well, yeah, when you've been living under the safety of the Western world, right? It's the safest time to be alive, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that everything is blown out with a 24-hour news cycle, and you have, for instance, something happens up in Mayo County, right? And you're in Cork, and all of Ireland knows about it, right? Except it's an isolated instance in County Mayo or wherever
it be,
right. Like in the United States, if like something happens to a child in Ohio, well, I'm on the West Coast. Like I'm not in danger of whatever that thing is. But with this global market, right, for news, right, and a lot of times they don't want to be right. They just want to be first. We were reporting on this first. How about you get the information like a good journalist? But journalism has become this white-collar job as opposed to the blue-collar job that it used to be, where you go out and you research and you find the information, you break a story. Now it's I get out there first and I say anything, and then I correct it later, or I don't correct it at all later. because I can't admit that I was wrong. If I admit that I was wrong, then I lose valuta. I'm not
Yeah,
as...
and I lose face in front of my colleagues and so on. Yes, yes.
So
I've
they
seen
end
that
up
with
on
them.
bad lines, and they have to keep maintaining them, which I think is a lot of this stuff comes from, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, legacy media is really not doing themselves any favors. You know,
No.
there are podcasts out there that are just beating the hell out of all the
Well,
old school legacy media, right?
Like the funny thing is, the only news station I've ever seen kind of reporting any of the conflicts in Central Africa and onwards has been Euronews for the most part.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Other media might touch on it every now and again, but they don't seem to really care as such.
Like when they don't pull the camera back for the huge anti-Israel, you know, pro-Palestine thing in Cork or Limerick or Dublin or whatever.
Or wherever it is. And when you're there on the ground, you're kind of going, okay, it's about 150, 200 people.
Yep. But they're
Yeah,
real
you
loud.
know, you're kind of going, yeah, they're very loud. Now, it was interesting time where there was a couple of protests on at the same time in Cork.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was they were all kind of marching the same direction, but they all started talking over each other. And I'm kind of going, now it just sounds like noise.
Yeah.
It's just, as I said, I kind of take the mick out of them a small bit because, as I said, it's the same people who are always at these protests, so we're just kind of used to them at the point.
Yeah. Tends to reduce the legitimacy, I suppose. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get back to it.
Bigotry that's been rehabilitated in Israelophobia. And then, of course, the old idea that the Jews were a manipulative people, very powerful, kind of puppeteering world affairs, that's been 100% rebuilt on the altar of Israelophobia.
Yeah, it's been blown way out of proportion.
Yeah. There's more than one conflict.
Right. Well, no, it's like the Jews own all the banks and the Jews own all the media, and that has switched from the Jews own it to Israel owns it, right?
Yeah.
And then you can hate Israel for all the things you hated the Jews for before, right? It just maps right on real easy, you know?
But as I say, unfortunately, what people don't understand is when you get to you have a few years on the road, as I say, you've seen a lot of these headlines before, and you'll see them blow over, and then there'll be another crisis somewhere else in the world, and Palestinian flags will come down, and somebody else's flag will go up. As I say, I know I'm a bit kind of more cynical than most Irish lads, but you kind of know where this ship is sailing after a while.
Yep, that is the case.
Idea that the Jewish nation has America and Britain eaten out of the palms of its hands. It's the secret controller of world events. And, you know, it's you also see it in this notion that, you know, when people in Europe, in medieval Europe, who at least had the excuse of being uneducated and couldn't read, they were illiterate and they were farmers and they lived in towns and they were not particularly enlightened people. You know, when they saw the Jews as the pox in their own lives. If their crops failed, they would blame Jewish people. If someone went missing, they'd say the Jews took that person. If they ran out of money, they'd say it's because the Jews are moneylenders. They're hoarding everything. The Jews were the explanation for everything that went wrong in their own lives. We now see that in relation to the Jewish nation. And you're right to raise the problem of the right, because we see it on the right as well as the left. This notion that if only Israel didn't exist, we'd have...
Well, and there's lots of Jews, right? There's Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Mizrahi, Sephardic. There's a lot of Jewish type people, right?
Yes.
So it's you've decided that a religious group is the root of all evil, and once you've othered them and you can blame them for things, right? They had a conflict, I believe, in the late 30s, early 40s, 1900 style, where that came to a massive head, right? Because they got blamed for and then put into ghettos and then treated in a very, very, very bad way, right? And that never again, like that is not appropriate for what people to do to any other people. I think the danger is
once you start othering people or a group of people, it starts a very slippery slope into murder very quickly.
Yeah, right.
I think if anyone doubts that, just visit any of the Holocaust museums all across Europe.
The first victims of that after the first treaty that government got was with the Vatican, right? But the first people that got, in quotes, dealt with were the Roma, right? The Gypsies.
Yes.
Now the Gypsies are back. You could just look in lots of cities in Ireland. Y'all got a lot of them. There's a bunch.
Yeah, they're back.
Yeah, they are back. Time for another world tour, apparently. All right, here we go.
have world peace. If only Israel didn't exist, we could really have America first, and we could really sort out America's problems. If only Israel didn't exist, then, you know, you wouldn't have all these tensions in Europe and all these kind of conflicts and between Muslims and Jews and everything else. The Jewish nation has been redefined as the source of all the world's ills, in the way that the Jewish people were once seen as the source of all the world's ills.
Right. It's just a remapping.
Yeah, as I say, it's a retelling of an old story that's gone through all of history. It's just different headline, but the same story. And unfortunately, we've seen this play out before. And it never, ever ends well. People, never ends well.
That is a fact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, anti-Semitism is a very unique form of racism, because it's not just bigotry against a group of people on the basis of their heritage or their skin color. And we can all agree all forms of racism are wicked. It's not just that. It's a search for evil. It treats the Jewish people, or today the Jewish nation, as a cauldron of evil, as the source of evil, as the force that is undermining civilized life,
So are you experiencing or seeing that in the space where you are in Ireland? Are you seeing that at all, or to the extent that he's thinking?
Is there a lot of anti-Israel sentiment in Ireland? In the media, yes. On the ground, there are a lot of people who are pro-Palestine, yes. But the vast majority of people don't really care. They've always been straight out and honest. Most people are smart enough to realize we have our own problems at the moment in our own country.
Right,
but larger protests are more, like if you think about it, look how many people are protesting the housing issue across the country.
School
10
issues
times
as well.
Number.
Yeah,
other social issues. It's 10 times the number. So
right, but just like in the UK, they get labeled as far right leaning fascists, or like, it's really strange. They're like, no, we love the tricolor. We love our flag. We love our nation. We are the Republic of Ireland, and we want things to be more culturally steeped in Irish culture, right? Well, that's where we want it. But when you bring in all these immigrants and you don't do it the right way, and they're just like coming in from Northern Ireland and we can't do anything about it, right? There's nothing we can do about it. They just come right over the border and right into our space. And then they take all of our resources. They just extract our resources. And for some reason, your government's like, we should just give them the resources, as opposed to, you're not supposed to be here. You didn't come in. Right. Port of entry.
There's no pushback from any of our major parties. None.
Right. But again, that might be, they make tons and tons of money as landlords, housing them and forcing contracts on the government. Right. It seems like you're voting for bread and circuses, and eventually the bread's going to run out and the circus is going to close and nothing's going to be right. It's just not.
In the next couple of years, it's going to be very interesting to see what parties are going to come out of this present rising across the country. Because most people have lost heart in Fine Gael. Fine Gael is probably going to get wiped out in the next election by the looks of it.
What about Sinn Féin?
Sinn Féin are nowhere as popular as they used to be before this present crisis.
Right. Well, you're still running an issue in Northern Ireland, where those are the only three that are allowed to sit in and make any adjustment on that.
I'm talking about the south of Ireland. Northern Ireland has its own issues as well at the moment.
Right.
They're struggling with their own. The young people in Northern Ireland are kind of sick of Sinn Féin and sick of the unionists. They're kind of sick of both sides of them.
Well, we were watching some
stuff.
videos. What was that lady's name? There was a lady we were talking about who was, I think she was Sinn Féin, and she's Northern Ireland, and she was talking about how we should in Northern Ireland vote in Republic of Ireland elections, and that just seemed really strange because you're a part of the UK. You don't get to do that. I don't get to vote for other countries' elections, right?
No.
So,
and in fairness to our government, we've kind of have nicely said it to them over the years, going, unfortunately, you're part of the UK. We can't, it doesn't work that way. I know it was part of kind of one of the promises in the Good Friday Agreement. It was one of the promises, but it's one of those promises that was kind of put there to
appease,
keep the Republicans happy in some ways. But in reality, everyone kind of knows. Common sense should tell you the answer to that question.
Well, common sense is very common, especially in today's day and age.
The same lady, actually, I do remember the video. She was quite interested to see that even though she was Sinn Féin, she was wise enough to realise that for Northern Ireland to move forward, they have to move away from both sides of the aisle and come up with like the Alliance Party, which is very popular up there.
Something, yeah.
Something different from what's there at the moment. And this will happen down the south as well. People are going to move away from our Civil War politics. And not vote for Fine Gael, not vote for Sinn Féin, or not vote for Fianna Fáil or Labour. They're going to vote for another choice.
Have you ever heard of a couple Irish clans that ended up in the Appalachian Mountains called the Hatfields and the McCoys? You heard of the Hatfields and the McCoys?
I remember that. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, they've been going at it for a long time. Ireland doesn't forget, bro. Y'all don't forget, and you don't forgive very easily at all. You just don't.
We're very stubborn people. Once we get fired up, it takes a long time for us to get fired up, but once we do,
once you get the bit in your mouth, man, it's a wrap. And it looks like it's starting to go that way too. So, all right, let's get back to Mr. O'Neill. See what he's going to say.
Undermining democratic life, undermining everyday life. That's how the Jews were once seen, and that's now how the Jewish state is seen. And to me, it cannot be a coincidence that all the bile and bigotry that was once visited on the Jewish people is now openly visited on the Jewish state.
I want to understand the president of Ireland, Michael D. Higgins. So there's this, Israel have said they were going to remove the embassy in Ireland. So that's a pretty good indicator of things not being good in Ireland. And there's also this curious case where at a Holocaust memorial, the President Higgins made it all about, not October 7th, on the contrary, he made it all about the quote-unquote genocide going on in Gaza. A bunch of representatives from the Israel embassy.
All right, so that is probably not the best look for Mr. Higgins.
No, I remember this in the news, all right. He was asked not to come to this event. His invitation was taken back by the holders of this event. And he still turned up and still made his speech, which he's allowed to make a speech. He's president of Ireland. And at the end of the day, do I agree with what he was saying? There's a time and a place. He could have made that speech very much from his office in Stephen's Green. Very, very as easily. I think he was right to make the speech, but in the wrong setting. Completely the wrong setting at the wrong time.
I don't even think the content of that speech is correct based on how the word genocide works. Like
but I'm just saying, I'm just talking from my point of view as an Irish person.
Well, yeah, he didn't. Yeah, it looks like he went to that event to shit on the Jewish state. Like,
yes, it was the wrong event to make that speech. He could have easily have made it that. And the point, by the way, he was pulled up by an awful lot of TDs who, yes, they agreed with his speech, but it was completely the wrong setting to have that speech.
Right, but if you're not using the word correctly, he was not using genocide correctly. That's not the way that word works. There's a very specific legal meaning in international law as to what exactly that was, right? And the IDF and Israel is not committing a genocide. They are not, specifically. And they're, Neuer, was his last name? Neuer was actually addressed the UN on that and said, look, we're not doing this. Natasha Hausdorff, an international lawyer from the UK, is like, look, this is how the word works. That it doesn't mean what you're saying it means. You are transitioning the word to use it as a
but you have to remember, but you have to remember at that time period, there was a lot of hype around, a lot of words being banned in the press were around, and
but
that's probably the word he went to first.
Right, hype does not excuse a president of a country from making fallacious statements. Not appropriate. Right?
Yes, but he still has the right to speak.
While he has the right to speak,
even if you don't agree with him, he still has the right to speak.
No, it doesn't matter if I agree with him or not. If he's in fact using the word incorrectly, and he knows he is, he's an intelligent man. Mr. Higgins knows. The president of your country knows what that means and what it means in international law. If a lawyer in the UK knows it, then a lawyer who works for Mr. Higgins can say, whoa, hey, for international law, that's the incorrect usage of the word. Right? Not acceptable. Like because now what you're doing is you're making Ireland look bad for being in violation of functionally not using that word correctly, right? If the word is used wrong, it's still used wrong, right? So, all right. We've pushed up a little bit to get this next little section. Here we go.
bonfire of a refugee boat, I guess they would call it, or an immigrant boat. Before we get into the response to protests against immigration, can you just tell me what is the state of immigration into Ireland? How does it compare to Britain? What are they protesting?
Well, that boat, the migrant boat on the bonfire, I didn't like that. That made me uncomfortable. I mean, I don't think we should go too crazy about it, because the bonfires in Northern Ireland are famously crazy and it's like the Lewis bonfire in Sussex that they have on the 5th of November every year, where they often burn a political figure,
Right.
and it always causes a controversy.
I remember the 5th of November, the
5th
gunpowder.
of November. Yeah. But what he's on about
Treason
is
and
the
plot.
boat. Yeah, he'll probably show you the boat there. That's just the unionist protests, the Battle of the Boyne, celebrating. They've burned our flags many times. They've burned all different. Yeah, they're just completely nuts. He will say it, they're completely and utterly nuts. Nobody normally takes much notice of them. Every now and again, we give out to them for what they're burning. This time it made headlines because they were burning a boat.
Well, it just seems like a stunt. Like, it just seems like a political
It
stunt
is a
every
stunt.
year.
By the way, this is a very small population in Northern Ireland around, the usual die-hard unionists will never give up that, they're British.
Like
Yeah.
Buzz Lightyear, never give up, never give in.
yeah,
or was that Galaxy Quest?
Every time I hear about the unionists up Northern Ireland, I usually just roll my eyes, kind of going, "What have those people have done now?" It's never
Crazy.
good.
Here we go.
But it's just actually a bit of raucous.
And in Northern Ireland, they do
Fun.
that to celebrate the Battle of the Boyne.
Yeah,
From 1690. It's always this time of year,
that's right.
This is-
Yeah, in the run up to the
Look at you, history major, getting your Battle of the Boyne on. I like it.
Yes, yeah.
12th of July and the
As I
victory
said,
of
we're quite used to it. We're
the
quite used to
Protestant king
doing
over
crazy
the
stuff
Catholic
on
king
different-
at the Battle of the Boyne in 1690.
It's not completely
Throughout-
random.
Yeah, so exactly. So throughout July, particularly towards the 12th of July, they have these huge bonfires, and they will often put effigies of someone from politics or whatever. So it's kind of it's a very antsy kind of working class. It's got a real fuck you attitude to it. These bonfires, they really are
Solid attitude. There you go.
like
Yeah, but yeah, they're absolutely nuts.
They're always crazy. So I wouldn't lose that much sleep over the fact that there was this effigy of a boat on them. I didn't like it. I don't think it's a nice thing to do. I personally wouldn't do it myself. But, I'm struck by all the people who spent the past 2 weeks defending Bob Dylan chanting death to the IDF, suddenly getting het up because...
And indeed kneecap.
And suddenly getting het up because of this effigy of a migrant boat. So there's so much hypocrisy in it. But immigration in Ireland, it's out of control. And we're heading towards a situation where 15 or more % of people in Ireland were born outside of Ireland. And it's getting higher and higher. That's a huge proportion of the country, of a small country like Ireland.
And that's a breaking point, too, because if you get
It
15
is.
to 20% of the population and they go all in on politics, they will severely change. Like, the apathetic folks are going to have to come out the house and get reintegrated into the political machinations of the country, because that small voice is a significant voice now, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, this particular issue has brought people together who normally wouldn't come together in these type of protests.
Oh, I saw that the other day. How was it? There was 2 groups in Dublin who normally will not even treat with one another, and they were hand in arm, like walking down the street together in a pretty big damn
It's
protest,
interesting to see people who normally wouldn't vote for the same kind of parties, you could say, all come together under just one banner.
Yeah, and it's a pretty
very,
important banner for the culture of your country, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting to see people from different parts of Dublin who, as you say, would normally cross the road to look at each other, are now all involved in these protests.
Right.
If you know what I mean?
And then they're at the pub having a pint together, talking about how bad this or that thing is that they both agree on.
As I say, we wouldn't go that far, but they'll march together. Once they go to, they're probably drinking different pubs. One will have cocktails and one will have pints. That kind of way.
Oh, that kind of got it.
You understand what I'm trying to? Yeah.
The posh pinky out folk versus the hard scrabble, tradesmen or whatever. All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's similar. And in fact, it's now almost the same as the percentage of people who were born outside of New York in New York, in the era in which New York was referred to as the melting pot of the world, the late 1800s, the early 1900s, around that time, about 18% of people in New York were born outside of New York. And that was a huge, bustling, emerging world power of a city. Ireland's a small country.
It's about, what is it, 4 or 5 million population?
Yeah.
Dublin's about 1 million, is that right?
Yeah.
Something like
this
that.
Is a small country. There's more people in Greater London than there is in Ireland. It's not an economic powerhouse. And yet the immigrants keep coming.
So where are they coming from? Who are the immigrants?
They're similar to the immigrants that we get in the UK. So some of them may even be the people who come to Britain illegally on boats and then they cross and go to Ireland. They're coming from North Africa. They're coming from sub-Saharan Africa. They're coming from...
They're going to France first, generally speaking, to get on that boat in the first place,
yes,
right?
and what's happening is they go through Britain and come down through Northern Ireland. Or what's happening as well is because we have major trading ports as well in Ireland, like Dublin Port, Cork Port. You know what I mean? We have a lot of major trading hubs in Ireland, so they're coming through that direction from North African trading ships as well.
Okay, but
And
the lion's share is coming south across that Northern Ireland border, though,
yes,
right?
Northern Ireland. The figures are very kind of evenly split on different routes of travel. Came out of our Department of Justice there recently enough that there's about equal parts Northern Ireland, equal parts container ships, flights into Ireland from different parts of Europe. If you know what I mean, it's
right.
So it's kind of spread evenly across all different modes of transport. Like there's many times trucks manage to make through all the way from France through Britain into Ireland, and when they're searching Ireland, suddenly you'll find a truck full of people, and you're kind of going, how did they manage to make it through a couple of different points of entry?
Well, they had to have been passed through. Like they weren't appropriately
inspected. People are not small, okay? People are not small.
Well, we are considered megafauna, so yeah, because we're over like 40 kilos generally. So
yeah, how did they manage to get through all these points? Like either on the British side of the turn, or we know the British side.
But the problem is it's all going to end up being an EU issue, because once you get to Ireland, then all of the EU is going to have to figure something out, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the EU at the moment, not just Ireland, other EU countries have come with their own different solutions.
Right.
I know Hungary is just says no, just close the borders, but that's Hungary. Like,
and
even
Poland
though we're all
just
part
says
of the
no.
EU,
Yeah, Poland just says no, thanks. No, not at all.
Poland says no to lots of things.
Right, and they're being fined. They're being fined by the EU every day they don't accept immigrants. And Poland's like, we'll pay the tax, or whatever.
And when you read the bottom end of it, they're being threatened with fines. Like, I've read the headlines around the whole EU fine in Poland. It's more of an angry letter being sent to Poland.
Right, because the EU.
On the door. As I've always said to young people, read the full story, not just the headline.
What? Not just the headline, but that's where all the juicy stuff is there, Patrick.
I think Poland, the reason why Poland says no is pretty unique. And what they said to EU Council is the reason we're not taking any more refugees is we've taken nearly 3 million people from Ukraine since the war started.
Right.
We're at capacity.
Right. Yeah, we're done. Our infrastructure won't take anymore, so you need to send them back.
And most Eastern European countries are saying no to refugees for the same war.
Right. Well, it's a culture thing. They know that their culture will be destroyed if they overdo it. So that's just a fact. If you have people that come in and don't want to assimilate, don't learn the language, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to learn Irish. You can learn English and you'll be fine. But at least go that far. Go that far. Like, try to assimilate. Try and be part of the culture, you know? Otherwise, you're just coming there to be a leech. You're just extracting resources to continue to exist, and you're making enclaves of non-Irish people, just like you're making enclaves of non-whatever country people when they get to those countries as well.
Yeah, when people land on different shores, they have tendencies. We're a tribal people. As a race, we will come together in groups to protect each other. That's just the nature of who we are. But when that is our strength, we can also be our biggest downfall, because, as you say, we get into a ghetto type situation where with people from the same cultures looking at the same point of view, not integrating into society at large.
The UK's got a problem because they have some enclaves that functionally work with Sharia law, and there are places you can't go in London.
As I've said, read the headline. Yeah, always read the headline. Don't read the headlines. Read the full story.
No, I understand.
There was silly proposals.
Right.
were,
Their
were made to
proposals,
their local
some of them
councils.
are doing it of their own accord, right? They're looking to have these enclaves, but then there's places you can't go if you are not Muslim, right? Mosques, obviously, if you're not Muslim, they're not going to be like,
Obviously,
hey, come
yes.
on
You
in.
know what I mean?
But they're
Which is
that's a strange restriction on movement. So, all right, let's give this guy a minute or more to cook, and we'll get closed up on this episode.
From the Middle East, they're coming from those parts of the world.
Presumably, they're not getting on boats from the continent, right? If they're getting on boats, because that's quite a distance to do.
Yeah.
So if they're coming on boats, it's from Britain,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Or from Northern Ireland.
A lot of them come through past the border. So they're in the UK, and they can come from they go to Northern Ireland, and then they come down through the border to the Irish Republic. But
so they're coming from Belfast, or they're coming from
they're coming through the Northern Ireland border. Yeah.
Got it. All right. So for Patrick McCallum, I am Alex Johansson. We are the A&P Gents. We are signing off. Ring the bell, subscribe, do all the things, help us beat the algorithm. We will catch you on the next one. We are out.